Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the English Learning Podcast. I'm your host, Jason, and today we have a really exciting and practical topic to help you on your English learning journey. We're diving into the question, how can you memorize English words effectively? Whether you're just starting out or you're trying to expand your vocabulary, today's episode will give you the tools and strategies you need to succeed.
Hi, everyone. I'm Julia, your co-host, and I'm so excited to be here today. You know, Jason, memorizing English words can feel like a big challenge, especially when you're trying to learn so many at once. I remember when I first started learning a new language, I'd forget words almost as quickly as I learned them, so if you've ever struggled with that, you're not alone.
That's such a common experience, Julia. But don't worry. Today, we'll explore some easy and fun ways to help you not just learn new words, but actually remember them. By the end of this episode, you'll feel more confident in building your vocabulary and using it in real conversations.
Absolutely. And stick with us because we'll also share some of our favorite tips and even a few tricks that you can start using right away. So grab a notebook or just relax and listen in. We've got you covered.
All right, now let's dive into why memorizing words is such an important part of learning English. Julia, when you think about vocabulary, what comes to mind as its biggest impact on communication?
Great question, Jason. I think vocabulary is the foundation of any language. Without enough words, it's hard to express your ideas, understand others, or even enjoy things like books, movies, or podcasts in English. Words are like building blocks. They help you construct sentences and share your thoughts clearly.
Exactly. And having a strong vocabulary makes a huge difference in your fluency. Imagine trying to explain something, but you don't know the right words. It can be frustrating, right?
So true. And let's not forget how vocabulary also affects confidence. When you know the words you need, you feel more comfortable speaking or writing. You don't second-guess yourself as much, which makes communication smoother.
That's a great point. Plus, vocabulary is also key for understanding. When you're listening to someone speak or reading a text, knowing more words means you can follow along more easily without stopping to translate or look things up.
Right. And one of my favorite things about learning new words is how it opens up new opportunities. Whether it's getting better at your job, making friends from other countries, or traveling, vocabulary connects you to the world.
Well said, Julia. So, if you're listening and wondering why we're emphasizing this, it's because building your vocabulary is one of the fastest ways to improve your overall English skills. Now, let's talk about the challenges that many learners face when trying to memorize new words, and how to overcome them. All right? Now that we know why vocabulary is so important, let's talk about the challenges learners face when trying to memorize new words. Julia, what do you think is the most common problem people encounter?
Good question, Jason. One of the biggest challenges is forgetting words quickly. You know, you learn a new word today, but by tomorrow, or even in a few hours, it's gone. That can feel so frustrating and discouraging.
Absolutely. That's something so many learners experience. Another challenge I hear about often is struggling to use the word in context. You might know the word, but when it's time to use it in a sentence, you freeze.
Yes. And I think a lack of practice makes it harder to remember words too. If you don't review or use the word regularly, it just fades away. It's like trying to remember a friend's phone number you never dial.
Exactly. And here's another one. Pronunciation. Sometimes learners avoid using a word because they're not sure how to say it correctly, and that hesitation makes it harder to remember the word over time.
That's so true. Another issue I've heard is trying to learn too many words at once. If you're studying a big list of words, it can feel overwhelming and your brain doesn't know what to focus on.
Yes, and that can lead to confusion, especially when words look or sound similar. For example, words like affect and effect. People mix those up all the time.
Exactly. And let's not forget boredom. If the learning process isn't fun or engaging, it's easy to lose motivation. That's why some people give up before they make real progress.
Great point, Julia. So, if you've faced any of these challenges, don't worry. You're not alone. In fact, it's totally normal. But here's the good news. For every challenge, there's a solution. And that's what we're going to dive into next. Now that we've talked about the challenges, let's get to the good part. How to overcome them. Julia, what's your go-to tip for memorizing words?
One of my favorites is using flashcards. They're simple but so effective. You can write the word on one side and the meaning or a sentence on the other. And with apps like Anki or Quizlet, you can even create digital flashcards that you can review anywhere. Absolutely. Another technique I love is learning words in context. Instead of just memorizing the word run, try to use it in a sentence like, I run every morning. This helps you understand how the word works in real life.
Flashcards are great. I'd add to that by saying it's helpful to include images or pictures on your flashcards. Associating a word with a visual makes it much easier to remember. For example, if you're learning the word apple, seeing a picture of an apple can make it stick in your mind. Great tip. And speaking of context, reading and listening to English content is a fantastic way to learn vocabulary naturally. Whether it's books, articles, podcasts, or TV shows, you'll encounter new words and see how they're used in different situations.
That's so true, Jason. And here's another one, spaced repetition. This is a method where you review words at increasing intervals, like after 1 day, then 3 days, then a week. It's proven to help you move words into your long-term memory.
Yes, spaced repetition is powerful. And if you're someone who likes writing, keeping a vocabulary journal can work wonders. Write down new words, their meanings, and example sentences. Then review your journal regularly.
I love that idea. Another fun technique is creating stories or associations with the words. For example, if you're learning the word giant, you could picture a giant holding a dictionary. The sillier the story, the easier it is to remember.
That's a great one, Julia. And don't forget the importance of practicing pronunciation. Use tools like Google Translate or language apps to hear how a word is pronounced, and then say it out loud. This makes you more confident and helps cement the word in your memory.
Good point, Jason. And here's one more. Label things around you in English. For example, stick a note that says refrigerator on your fridge. Seeing these labels every day helps you learn without even trying.
These are all fantastic strategies. Remember, you don't have to use all of them at once. Pick 1 or 2 that work for you and start there. Consistency is key.
Right. And to make it fun, try combining these methods, like using flashcards and then testing yourself by writing short stories with the new words you've learned. The more you enjoy the process, the more effective it will be.
Exactly. So, to our listeners, take a moment to think about which of these tips you'd like to try first. And don't worry if it feels like a lot. We'll recap the key points later to help you out. All right, let's make this fun. We're going to do a quick interactive activity to test your memory and help you practice some of the tips we just shared. Julia, are you ready to help me out?
Of course, Jason. Let's give our listeners a chance to try out what they've learned. Here's how it works. I'll give you a word, and you'll have a few seconds to think of its meaning and use it in a sentence. Ready, everyone?
Let's start easy. Here's the first word. Happy. What does it mean? Can you use it in a sentence?
Okay, here's an example. Happy means feeling good or joyful. For example, I am happy when I spend time with my family. Did you come up with a sentence? Great job if you did.
Let's try another one. This time, the word is run. Think about its meaning and create a sentence. Ready? Go.
All right, here's my example. Run means to move quickly on foot. For example, I run every morning to stay healthy. How did you do? Keep practicing.
Now, let's try something more advanced. The word is giant. Think of its meaning and use it in a sentence. I'll give you a moment.
Here's one. A giant is something very large. For example, there's a giant tree in my backyard. If you thought of a sentence, that's amazing.
Nice work, everyone. Activities like this are a fun way to test your knowledge and improve your vocabulary. And remember, the more you practice using words in sentences, the more natural it will feel.
Exactly. You can try this activity on your own too. Pick a few words each day, think of their meanings, and use them in sentences. It's a great way to reinforce what you've learned.
All right, let's move on to wrap things up with a quick recap and some final thoughts. Stay with us. Now that you've learned some great tips and tried a fun activity, let's talk about how to apply this in your daily life. Julia, what's the first thing learners can do to practice their vocabulary every day?
Great question, Jason. I'd say start by creating a simple daily routine. For example, choose 5 new words each day and write them down in your vocabulary journal. Make sure to include their meanings and an example sentence for each.
That's a fantastic habit. And here's an idea. Set a goal to use those 5 words in conversations throughout your day. It could be while chatting with friends, writing a message, or even speaking to yourself.
Exactly, and don't worry if you don't have someone to practice with. You can use shadowing. Listen to a podcast or watch a video and repeat what the speaker says. Try to include the new words you've learned.
Shadowing is such a powerful technique. Another practical tip is to immerse yourself in English as much as possible. Change your phone's language settings to English. Watch movies or TV shows with subtitles. And try reading articles or books in English.
That's so helpful, Jason. And if you're someone who enjoys technology, there are apps like Duolingo, Memrise, or Anki that can help you practice vocabulary in a fun and interactive way.
Good suggestion, Julia. And let's not forget about writing. Keep a daily journal in English. Write about your day, your thoughts, or even create short stories using the new words you've learned. Writing helps reinforce memory.
Absolutely. And here's one more idea. Use a language buddy or join an online community. There are so many forums and groups where you can practice writing or speaking in English with other learners.
That's a great way to make learning social and interactive. And if you're too shy to speak to someone, try recording yourself speaking the new words and listening to how you sound. It helps build confidence and improve pronunciation.
Such practical tips, Jason. And remember, consistency is the key. Even small steps like learning a few words a day and using them can lead to big improvements over time.
Exactly, Julia. To our listeners, don't stress about perfection. Focus on progress and have fun with the process. Every word you learn brings you one step closer to fluency.
Well said, Jason. Let's move on to our recap and final thoughts to wrap things up.
We've covered a lot today, haven't we, Julia? From understanding why memorizing words is important to overcoming challenges, learning practical tips, and even testing your skills with an activity.
That's right, Jason. And the key takeaway is that learning vocabulary doesn't have to be boring or difficult. With the right techniques, like using flashcards, creating stories, and practicing consistently, you can make it a fun and rewarding part of your journey.
Exactly. To all our listeners, remember to take small, consistent steps. Start with a few words each day, use them in sentences, and keep practicing. Progress might feel slow at first, but every effort you make adds up.
And we'd love to hear from you. What's your favorite way to learn new words? Or do you have a technique we didn't mention? Share it in the comments or message us directly. We'd love to include your ideas in future episodes.
Also, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and check out the playlist for more episodes. If you found today's tips helpful, share this episode with your friends or anyone who's learning English. It might help them too.
And one last thing, take what you've learned today and put it into action. Start memorizing 5 new words right now and try using them in a sentence. You've got this.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Keep practicing, stay motivated, and we'll see you in the next episode of the English Learning Podcast. Bye for now.
Bye, everyone. Happy learning.